Live stream. Let me move this stuff away. All right, I have not done a live stream in a long time. I got kids. Let me move this. I don't want really a whole lot in my background. I just wanted to do this. Haven't done one in a while, so my dishevelment. I've been writing, working, trying to just live my American dream in this crazy ass nightmare we call America right now. And it is some fake stuff going on in America right now. It's just, you know what my issue is, we have this two-party system, right? And no matter how pissed off anybody is about what's going on either side of the spectrum, for some reason, they just can't get away from the two-party mentality enough to understand that everybody in this country is being manipulated. In some way, everybody in this country is being manipulated. And, I kind of look at, the different layers of manipulation that I observe. And it's just amazing to me. It's just amazing. So, you know, recently, obviously there was a lot of conversation about, Candace Owens and A. West doing this, White Lives Matter thing. And it's interesting because after they've done that, I don't really see Kanye West on Fox. I don't see him featured in a lot of conservative outlets. But then all of a sudden, here we go. Kanye West is in all these conservative outlets. They're giving him a platform to tell a story about how the Democrats have manipulated him in Hollywood and he couldn't be himself. And it's like, and the white conservatives are just eating this up. It's like popcorn for them because it's like, oh my God, another black person, who's talking about their liberation from the Democrats. And you can tell that this is about politics. This is not really about helping black people. It really. And, I think about all the black faces that talk about black issues, and on both sides, black people are being presented out of context. The issues of black people, the interests of black people on both sides are being skewed for obviously somebody else's personal benefit. So, I could ask the question quite a bit, Angie, why don't black Democrats want to be Republicans? Black people used to be Republican and, and the parties and all this switching and stuff. But it's like, why don't black, Republicans resonate with Democrats? And it's really simple. I mean, if you don't really kind of see the memo now, because, I'm starting to see that, the way Republicans need black people hearing and talking about their black American experience is a very specific way. And if you are not a black conservative that falls in line with that way of presenting the black American experience, then they do the same damn thing as the liberals do, right? They try to castrate you or, off from the conservative movement, call you fake and all this stuff. But conscious black conservatives understand how to talk about black America. And I'm sorry that so many white conservatives have their opinions and mindsets set on viewing black America through the lens of a person like Candace Owens. I'm sorry, because she does not know how to talk about black people. I've said this before. I got Walter Williams here. Walter Williams, Shelby Steele, right? Was all over there. These brothers have been talking about the same damn things for decades, right? And yet, you hear somebody, and I'm not saying that Candace Owens can't talk about the topics that she talk about, but she does not know how to talk about black people. And she likes to talk about black people in a fashion where she is removed from black people. And even some of her recent statements, I don't want to be a part of black culture. I don't want to be this. And it's like, that's fine. Do what you want to do, but just please stop talking about black people. You're talking about black people as you're an outsider looking in, as you are pandering to the white, ignorant conservative base. And I'm not saying all white conservatives are ignorant, because a lot of the people have express their contradiction in the way that she articulates some of her topics about Black people. And I'm just saying, to like, people like Candace Owens, they're grifters, right? They can talk about Black issues very well because they're Black people, they have Black faces, and they can say all the things that white people would love to say about us that they can't. So they need a Black face. And I question the intentions of anybody who creates a message about Black people and then outwardly disassociates themselves with Black people as if they are going to resonate to Black people. Like, I don't understand how that works. And for a person like Candace Owens, who Black people already perceive as a white supremacist sympathizer, it was really kind of dumb for her to jump on the Kanye train and do something like that. You know what I mean? Kanye can get away with all kinds of silly things, and even Black people now are questioning, like, you know what? Maybe we should just let them have Ye. Let them have him, but you stop leveraging Black people when you need us. Because Kanye, to me, the Kanye that he's presenting to the Fox audience is not the Kanye that he presents to the Black audience, right? Like a couple of months ago, weeks ago, you're talking about the white man's keeping you from seeing your kids, right? But then you go and you're talking, then you try to troll Black Lives Matter, which another thing that irritates me is Candace Owens and Kanye are acting like they are like these vigilantes of taking down Black Lives Matter. And it's like, they already took themselves down. What are you talking about? Like, what are you really touting to Black people right now? Like, because, as I look at it, and I've come to understand it, there's the Black Lives grassroots organization, and then there's the Black Lives Matter global organization, which was the, I guess, segment of the organization that was getting all of the donations and really skewing the message of the grassroots Black Lives Matter. So somebody got sold out at some point. But that's just to say that when you look at how Black people are constantly projected in the media, where we're being criminalized, we're being abused, even if you can dissect each and every one of those cases in the news and find some level of justice of why somebody was wrong in a situation, it doesn't negate the fact that police brutality in the media is sensationalized for Black people, even though it happens to people of all races. You will never see the media focus on white men being attacked or ass beat by the police, because that is not sensationalized for white men. You're not going to see an Asian guy, even though it happens to these men and these women all the time. But it's not for us to see that from the lens of another race. It has to be through the lens of the Black American experience. So when people try to paint Black people as ignorant for looking at a slogan and a grassroots organization like Black Lives Matter and saying, you know what, I can resonate with that message. Were Black people resonating with Black Matter, the organization, the cluster salad, the fruit salad of all the issues wrapped into one? No, they weren't. And I think people need to understand that. Black Lives Matter, the global organization, had way too many issues wrapped into one. Like, if you look at anything that real Black people advocate for, we don't advocate for LGBTQ trans, advocate for abortion. We stay in our lane with our issues. And Black Lives Matter had an infusion of issues that a lot of Black people just didn't rock with. And even down to the riots, a lot of Black people jumped off the train when they're like, why are we messing up our own neighborhoods? Why are y'all going right into Black neighborhoods? Why aren't y'all going into the white neighborhoods? Because they weren't instructed to, because they're like, I've said it before, Black Lives Matter, the organization that they evolved into because they got sold out and corporate funded and government funded to be Democratic ops, because that's basically what they ended up being. The beginning of Black Lives Matter and what we know today are different. The Democratic ops to get votes from Black people after George Floyd, that was when they sold out. And that's when they really started making money. So you realize when or you sell your movement now, you gonna make money, right? you're going to have your message diluted into what they want it to be. And I want to make this point clear. Black people were not really the ones devastated by BLM as much as white people, because they were the ones pumping in the millions for the movement. Black people weren't throwing out money to BLM. If you really look at the donations of BLM, it's not going to be from a bunch of black people. I'll tell you that. It's going to be from white, liberal, corporate donors. That's BLM. It wasn't a black people movement, and even black people recognize that. It wasn't a black people's movement. You look at the riot pictures, you're going to see mostly white liberals. Why? Because black people jumped off the train as the shit went on. Black people were still, that's why them riots look whiter and whiter and whiter and whiter. White liberals did their best to keep the BLM Summer of Love going without the black people. And that's just word 100. So I am tired of people just skewing, the realities and the mindsets of black people so that they can profit and look relevant. I'm sorry. Kanye doing that White Lives Matter thing, it really juiced up a lot of, white conservatives, the ones who want to believe that black people are ignorant and just can't make decisions for themselves, as if the Republicans have done anything extra for black people. Where's this thing at? I want to show you guys. I had a I had a little flyer around here somewhere, but it was highlighting how the Democrats really put the footwork down, where even if you are a person who is not inclined, here it is, not inclined to vote for a Democrat, let me tell you what Democrats do that Republicans don't do. Right? I've seen Democrats canvassing my neighborhood, handing out flyers. This is who you should be voting for. This is your ticket. Basically, they giving out stuff like that. So you don't even got to guess who to go in the polls and vote for. You know what I mean? Republicans don't do that, right? But what they do is to get the black people to be inspired by them, they use these goofy black people. Goofy black people, as if black people are dumb. Like, for example, Herschel Walker, right? No disrespect, but Republicans do not vet their black people. They just really don't. They don't vet their black people. They're just like, oh, there's a black guy that can go against another black guy. So cool. If I was being strategic, if the Republicans were being very strategic about Georgia and they really wanted to increase their probability of winning, number one, they should not have used Herschel Walker. They should not have used Herschel Walker, especially if he had a bunch of skeletons in the closet that was going to go against their talking points. Like they're talking about fatherless boys and keeping the family together, and you got this dude running around like Papa was a Rolling Stone with seed all over the place that he didn't take care of. What Republican thought that Herschel Walker was smart, especially if he had a son that was a social influencer that really could not be trusted? I mean, I'm not trying to be mean with Christian Walker, and from what I understand, the poor guy really tried to suppress a lot of his feelings towards his father running. From what I understood, a lot of their family asked him not to run because they knew that he had these skeletons and they did not want to put their family through that. And he should have been a bigger man and not did that if these things are true from what Christian Walker is saying. So a lot of people are like, oh, I question the timing of this. It's midterm. It's like when you sitting around showboating for your dad, who's not really qualified to be in the position that he's running for. Come on now. If the Republicans were smart, they really would have picked a black woman. If they just needed a black on black run, they should have picked a black woman. A black woman would have been able to pick Warnock apart. Why? He has a history of domestic abuse. If you're not about to get the women all day, the white and the black women with that alone, it's just like, they're not smart to me. Like, Republicans are really not smart. And then they're like juicing up Kanye doing damage control because they know that Kanye and Candace went too far with the White Lives Matter shirt. They know he did. That's why they had to pull him on Tucker Carlson, create this humanistic point of Kanye where he's used by the Democratic Party and Hollywood. That man been in the game for decades now. Okay? Kanye has been in the game for decades now, making music, leveraging both black people whenever he can. It's the white people's turn to be leveraged, right? So I look at any insert your race lives matter as a victimhood statement. So the white folks that are just like, oh, that was a bold statement. He just turned y'all into victims. Congratulations. You just like the rest of us now. We're all equitable. Thank you, Kanye. Thank you. We're all victim classes now with the White Lives Matter shirt, which was absolutely not necessary. Fanning the flames of racism. And I feel like we've kind of had a come down from the racism. So that was really not intent. Like it was just not necessary. And they didn't really spark the dialogue that they wanted because then they had to come and do damage control. They had to really clean up what the hell Kanye and Kanye just now the black people upset because they feel like you making a mockery of them. So that's just to say that it's a crazy time that we're living in. I feel like both of these political parties are playing into the emotions of blacks. They're playing for the mentality of blacks. And, no, there's nothing wrong with encouraging black people to stay together. But guess what? They're doing that on the Democratic side, too. I mean, not every single, just because you're projecting Democrats breaking the family apart doesn't mean that there aren't people on the Democratic side who are on the ground promoting black families staying together. I got to get going. But I'm saying that people are getting played. I think black conversations are being played against black people in really ridiculous ways. And I think at the end of the day, Kanye is being leveraged by the Republican Party, obviously to attract black people, because he's a very popular person. And unfortunately, black people did not Brexit. So they need Kanye to kind of help Candace out because she's not really swaying anybody. And after this, I don't really know what the Republicans can expect for black people. I will tell you that I do have a suspicion that black people will probably terms out. I think that some black people may not even be inspired to go out and vote. And so I think that there may be opportunity for the Republicans just because I don't think a lot of black people are going to even make the choice to vote or even vote Republican. So, good job being stupid. I hope the clickbait word it worked, and really you made the stupid statement. You coming up with all reason why you did it. And then you're conflating talking points, right? You're conflating talking points for your ignorance. I'm sorry. There was no reason for that. It's disappointing that Kanye did that, to be honest with you. I think it's disappointing that Candace Owens jumped on the bandwagon Kanye's ignorance for her black people clout. And I think the Republican Party needs to start really thinking their choices when they're putting people and understand what truly resonates to black people as a whole beyond the politics, right? Because you guys are making these discussions about black people political, and black people do have legitimate concerns. And even if there's black people need to reconcile, there's a way to have a conversation. And I think a lot of people in the black community are doing that. And I think that people need to stop listening to one single voice making conclusions about black people based off of, and I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican, stop making conclusions about black based off of one little voice. And also, I would encourage you to broaden your perspective about what black people are talking about. Because I think that there is the left side of the conversation, there's the right side of the conversation, and then there's many of us in the middle who can provide perspective about a productive, solutions-based conversation about Black America, what we've gone through, psychological manipulation, without disassociating ourselves from our Blackness. We understand that nationality and ethnicity are two different things. So if you're an individual, in my opinion, who wants to broaden your perspective and you want to be able to view certain conversations from a diverse lens outside of the political party puppets, I think that my content is good content to tune into. And I also think that there's other content creators that you can kind of look at, like Angela Stanton King. She makes a lot of valid points. Um, and I would say Riza Islam too. I mean, he makes a lot of good points too. I mean, you can vilify people for who they are, but at the end of the day, you can also look at what they're doing consistently. There's a lot of talking heads on, on behalf of Black people who are not consistent. I think that they fan the flames of racism. And I think a lot of them, if they're not talking about Black victimhood, they're talking about Black ignorance. And sometimes neither one of those things are very productive. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I did not want to make this very long, but we got to do better. Like, Republicans need to do better at resonating and picking better people to represent Black people. Tim Scott is cool, but I don't really see Tim Scott running glory horse self-interest. So he's very, very objective, consistent. And I like that about him. But we gotta really start getting control over the Black narrative. And part of getting control over the Black narrative, to be honest with you guys, isn't about just choosing and flip-flopping political parties. Getting control over the Black narrative is, number one, Black people I believe a lot of Americans should be politically neutral. I think that both of those parties should sweat for our vote at all times, because if we're going to get the deliveries that we can't be giving them the surety that they're going to get an outcome one way or the other. So I think that people need to really register themselves as an independent, have both sides wondering, oh my God, which side is going to be showing up for me or not. But, mainly Black America need to be politically neutral, because you see both people from both sides frustrated with their party, who are not getting the outcomes from their parties that they want. And that's just true. So don't give them the predictability of your vote. Go register as an independent and make them sweat for your vote. And how do you make them sweat? They got to put their policies on the table, and they got to tell you what the outcomes and what the measures are going to be to achieve the outcomes and the policy. And they need to be able, and the proof is always in the pudding. So now some outcomes, or you're not getting reelected. And see, the problem with Americans on both sides is crying about the same damn thing, but you keep electing the same damn people. And this is on the Democrat and the Republican side. There's no reason why we have so many grandfather senators and Congress people in there, and then Americans are lamenting about the same damn thing. So I think, number one, let's get away from talking about race, okay, in the context of racism and making statements and condescending statements that fuels the flame of racism. Let's try to stay away from that as much as possible, because it doesn't help the conversation. If anything, it inflames the conversation. And I feel like as Americans, I've seen a lot of objective people. We can do better than that. Like, we can do better than conservatives. You guys are geeking over Kanye West's ignorance because you feel vindicated that he went after Black Lives Matter. And it's like, guess what, guys? I'm not. You guys care about it more than Black people at this point. I don't know any Black person I know sitting up there talking about BLM. I don't know any who have donated to BLM. People that care about BLM is white liberals who's trying to keep it alive in the name of Black people, because they, obviously you saw how we fell off with the riots. And white conservatives who are trying to make it seem like Black people fell under the BLM spell and they got to save us and vindicate it. It's like, bruh, stop listening to some of these Black conservatives, because they are so removed from Black people, as they gloat about all the time. They don't know what the hell they're talking about outside of the usual suspect Republican talking points about Black people. So it's a lot of manipulation going on in America, y'all. Kanye got these white folks just And let me tell you, after midterms, we ain't gonna even hear white folks talking about Kanye. We not. They're trying to get as many Black people as they can from Kanye, and they're all scrambling. I'm telling you, that Tucker Carlson interview with Kanye was damage control. It was damage control because Kanye was supposed to be the Republican puppet talking to Black people about how to vote. And with his White Lives Matter thing, he cried. And I mean, you can see who Kanye is appealing to at this moment. Kanye is appealing to white America. He has no intentions of really connecting with Black America on the messages that he's sending right now, because he's appealing to the talking points of the Republicans. And this is why, again, when people say, why don't Black Republicans resonate to Black Democrats, is flip flopping people like this. It's people who want to talk, use their Black face to talk about Black issues. And no matter if the topics are legitimate, they don't really, they're not necessarily looking for remedy. They just want to be able to regurgitate the same talking points, you know? Like Kevin Samuels died. Thank God the manosphere has Candace Owens. Because all her content, dissing IG models and all that stuff that Kevin Samuels used to do, it's recycled. It's recycled. So I'm very firm on this. We cannot have race hustlers on any side keeping us divided. We can't. I don't care if they're Black, white, Puerto Rican, or Haitian. We can't have race hustlers doing that. And conservatives, like, I realize that conservatives have their Black race hustlers too, and their names are Kanye West and Candace Owens. They are absolutely race hustlers. And they've learned how to leverage the ignorance of some white people for their hustle. That is the hustle of them. They realize that there is a demographic of white people that actually want to hear Black people talking negatively about Black Americans. All moving their Blackness, saying, I'm not Black, I'm unhyphenated, I'm just an American. And it's like, yeah, okay. That is exactly what, the Republicans want you to think. You're not Black, you're just an American. And it's like, Republicans, I'm telling you, conservatives are very lazy when it comes to the race topic. Democrats want to talk about it all day. Republicans don't know how to talk about it, so they don't want to talk about it. And in the center, it's like, you realize that there's ethnicity and then there's nationality, right? No matter where I am born in this world, I will be perceived as a darker complexion person meeting the social constructs of Black. Okay. So therefore, I accept, this sort of construct that my skin complexion creates this label group for me that I fall into the Black category in the United States. Now, because Black is just what I am, it's not who I am, allow my Blackness or even standards of what Black people should be to how I move and how I want to think. And that's another thing that Black people have to get over is we are meeting and we are getting ourselves down to standards of Blackness and expectations because of our complexion. And we're not being independent in thought as a lot of us may think that we are. And I think that is sort of the struggle between Black conservatives and Black liberals is they feel like there's a vacancy. Black Republicans or conservatives are like, you're not independently thinking, you're group thinking about what your experience should be in America based off of what other people are saying their experiences are. And that is a very valid argument that should be constantly reminded to the entire Black community. If we're not going to change collectively, then individually, Black Americans need to start taking control of their own narrative and saying, you know what? I'm not going to live up to some standard of Blackness, right? So if hip hop music is a standard of Blackness that I have to listen to, I'm gonna listen to country music. I'm listening to rock music. I'm listening to whatever music I like. My playlist may be mad bipolar with some Bob Dylan and some Future right next to each other. You can make that choice. If you decide that I want to, have a persona about myself that doesn't reflect what media is projecting of my blackness, you can do that. And I encourage a lot of black to break away from the standards and the ideas in blackness and just be yourself, because collective thinking has not served us well. A lot of people want to say it's Democrats. No, it's really collective thinking, bandwagon thinking, and a lot of us are victimized because have a lot of generational rhetoric from the old folks who they control the Black American narrative. And that's a whole other discussion. Older blacks, some of these black caucus leaders or whatever, they didn't take control over our narrative. Matter of fact, they've sold it out for their own some benefit time and time again. So I hope everyone have a wonderful weekend. I hope that people will stop playing the race, no matter if they're trying to troll somebody else or not. It's just not helpful. It's inflammatory. And, even though I'm not against free speech, and I think that people should realize what Kanye did is not something that's against free speech. It wasn't inciting violence or anything like that. It was a social political statement, and it was within the parameters of free speech, even though it was inflammatory, and people need to know the difference. Sometimes speech is going to inflame people. A lot of people were heated about that. But at the end of the day, you got to take what you need out of it. And I looked at that. I was like, I see political puppets. Sorry. I see black ops. I see black faces who typically talk really great issues, right? Making the spectacle of themselves and trolling people. And they're supposed to be intellectual people that we should listen to. So that's my take on all the crazy that we're dealing with. Shout out to Susan Woods. Susan Woods, you should check out her channel here. I've been following Susan Woods probably for like 2 years now, because this lady called herself a BLM investigator. And this is how I be telling people, black people was just not on board like that. You had a lot of people looking at for where that money was going a long time ago. Susan Woods has been really, really looking at following the money and making sure that black people knew that these people were profiting in the name of our struggles, our insecurities, our pangs, and our transgression, and none of us was profiting from it. None of our community profiting for it. And they've been around since 2012. So you talk about 10 years, over $90 million. You would think that they would have a whole hood or two or three just revamped. You would think that they would have opened up some schools and really have made a difference in the black community, but nope. And that's why a lot of black people saw that, especially when they heard Tamir Rice's mom and some of the victims just lamenting about how Black Lives Matter, really was a sham, and how none of that money got back to the black community. These are conversations that have been going on for years. So I think a lot of black people, slowly but surely, they jumped off of organization. But again, that slogan, the meaning behind the grassroots hashtag still remain true for a lot of black people. And again, I'm going to say it again. A lot of projections in the media about black people are negative. Negative. Even though you have the reality, I'm about to wrap up in 1 second. Even though you have the reality of black people every day, you still have the projection. And I always tell people, if you lived in a small rural area and you were all white people, nobody black lived in your area, your perceptions of black people are going to be based off of what you see off of the media. And that's how a lot of biases form, is because of the entertainment spaces and the media. So a lot of white people have preconceived ideas about black people before they even interact with a black person. And they also, I would venture to say, have a lot of fear of black people based off of the projections that they see on the TV and in the media of black people. Now, on the flip side, if you're a young black boy and all you're looking at the news space, and your people are being projected a certain way constantly, reoccurringly, right? It's easy for people to understand, like to take those projections literally, even though it may not be resonating with their environment that they live in. It's easy for those projections literally and think this is what Black people are going through. And then you go to school and you have things like critical race, which is only designed to reinforce those projections. So now you have, a sensibility as to why some Black people will look at a thing like Black Lives Matter and say, this resonates to me, support this. But again, Black people are not dumb. Our support only goes so far. And so when we start seeing the writings on the wall, a lot of us will slowly but surely walk back and just not even pay attention to it. And that's really kind of what Black Lives Matter, the global thing, did, because again, it was a salad bowl full of issues. So I pray for everybody, the organic, real Christians, not the titled Christians, so that you can resonate to people and do little sneak shit, evil shit. I pray for the real Christians, the people who are out here doing real Christian things and talking about not only things from a political perspective, but you talking about it from a biblical perspective. This is a spiritual war. This is a spiritual war. Y'all can play with politics if you want to. Y'all can start, swaying people's side. It's like, if y'all not swaying people to God organically, knowing that we are living in some very volatile times, they're like straight. If you don't know your Bible right now, I feel sorry for you. I really do. If you don't know your Bible, and if you're not talking about the times that we're living in now, and if you got people thinking that Republicans are going to save America and all this stuff, save your soul, save, this shit is crazy. How people have so much faith in men, and they say that they're Christians. They have so much faith in men. They idolize men. They worship them. It's insane. And they say that they're Christians. And when you look at what's on a lot of these Christians' lips, they will ridicule somebody on an opposing, political spectrum before they ridicule somebody who's out here being a fake Christian. And they're just using Christianity as a title for trust. It's almost like an accountant that just goes and get a bunch of designations so that they can look more credible. It's like people are being deceived. And the machinations, the mechanics of the devil, they're crafty. They will have people sucked into politics. They will have people sucked into choosing sides, distracted from opening up their Bibles, distracted from understanding the times that we're living in, understanding the spiritual warfare that is going on within the hearts of many people. Many people are being deceived. Like looking at Kanye on Tucker talking about Christianity, I had such a gross feeling come over me. I really did. It's like, if Kanye gonna talk about anything, please just talk about social Republican stuff. But don't talk about Christianity. Don't talk about Christianity. And you sat there and you co-produce Lil Nas X. A whole damn agenda came out with some satanic ass shoes, and your ass produced him within the last 2 years. Don't talk about Christianity, and then you got your homegirl Candace Owens going after Cardi B every time she can and instigating for Cardi to engage with her, because that's how much clout she needs from Cardi. And yet Kanye turning around and he producing stuff with this same woman of color that's supposed to be such a negative influence for women and women of color that Candace like to go after all the time. People need to make sense and understand what the devil is doing out here, playing with y'all minds with these famous people that are picking on one side of the pendulum swinging and all this stuff like that. These people are ops. These are satanic ops. They are angels of light. And their job is to keep you distracted and having your faith in man. They ain't trying to open your mind and your rationality to see what the hell is happening to you. They trying to tell you what one side is doing to you and why you need to come over on their side. The devil out here busy as hell. It's like Marcus Rogers was talking about yesterday, those who are living in the Holy Spirit can sense when someone else is living in the Spirit, even if you don't agree with them on everything. It's like, hey, you know what? I I listen to a lot of these faith-based, I don't listen to them all the time, but I stumble upon their content, some of these faith-based people, and it's like, everybody, if you feel like you're spreading the message and the word of God, whatever way you want to, you do that, you know what I mean? But I think that, I don't really look at Kanye West as a real Christian. I don't, I feel like, he's more of an op, a satanic op, and than anything. It's like when I look at Kanye, I do not take him serious at all. I think he's a genius. He creates a lot of good music, but he's built for Satan's world. I mean, Kanye never gonna give up the music industry. The man been in the music industry for decades. Kanye's never gonna give up the industry, go on a real life Christian ministry where he's not profiting and getting attention constantly. Kanye wants people worshiping him in some way, shape, or form, and he gets it every time. So I don't really pay attention to these fake Christians. You listen to some of these Republican politicians, we're the party of God and family and good values. And it's like, bro, you probably cheated on your wife like 2 days ago. Shut up. You can tell that they don't stand by those values completely because look at how the people that they prop in, you know? So I just think that we need to stop buying into the political warfare. If you're a real Christian, understand that everything is a means to an end. Your glory in the system of things, your wealth in the system of things, it will have an end, but I think people who have a loyalty to living their lives the best way they can, and not being sucked into this satanic world and the projections and the distractions. I think that, will definitely, see a lot more people see salvation in God. So that is my spiel. Kanye hasn't come out of the cult symbolism. He is too deep in it and is engaging. He's probably struggling with himself. I have no doubt that Kanye is struggling with himself, but at the same time, I can't help but see a false prophet. And like I said, people can buy into what they want to buy into, but I just think that Kanye has he's appealing to conservative whites because he sees that there is an opportunity with that base. They need more Black people talking about Democrats right now. And for quite frankly, Candace Owens really didn't come through for them. She really hasn't. Her audience, it's funny, she's a podcast now instead of a show. And it makes more sense. I'm glad that they did that for her because you can see how many Blacks it is. Candace was sitting up there talking about Black people issues, Black people to white people. So, and wonder why more Black people aren't resonating with her. It's like because Candace is making it very clear who she is talking to and talking about. So, y'all have a good day and keep your head up. Don't let this political craziness kind of suck you in. And I really got sucked. I got to be honest with you guys. I got distracted with this because it irritated the hell out of me that there are so many Black conservatives on the ground really trying to resonate to the Black community. And constantly they are propping up these people who do nothing but come in and tear down the work. So Kanye and Candace came down and they literally like just stomped on the work that a lot of conscious Black conservatives are putting out there to really not sway Black people to go from one party to the next, but really open the minds of Black people, awaken them to sort of the manipulations of our people. And they do it in constructive ways. And a lot of times, because you're choosing from the best of the worst, when people say, well, how do you vote? It's like, well, economically, I like low taxes. I don't want the government in my earnings. I don't really like large government. So if I had to choose, unfortunately, I would have to go with the party that has a better economic policy, and it's not going to be Democrats. It's not going to be Democrats, you know. But like I said, Democrats out here in these streets doing way better than Republicans, at least letting us know who their people are, who their candidates are. I mean, these people are on the ground. Republicans are not doing that. So while they sit up there using all these silly strategies to attract black people, get your asses on the ground. Get your asses in these neighborhoods, because the Democrats have ran my block 1,000 times with their canvassers and their candidates knocking on doors. Not one Republican in this cycle, and I'm in Michigan, a swing state. You would think that one of them would have came out, did a little canvas, even if y'all did some drive-bys, leaving some pamphlets. Republicans ain't doing shit, and they wonder why they get shit on by Democrats a lot of times in some of these small local elections, right? It's because of stuff like that, and they don't vet their candidates. They should have did much better with Herschel Walker. If y'all was gonna do black on black, shouldn't have been Herschel Walker. Anyways, I'm out of here, you guys. Take care. I want a president who knows how to count his words. Biden got to go. Biden has to go. Biden has to go. He's a puppet, and honestly, they didn't cut off so many of his strings. He's just limp. He's just limp. All right, y'all. Have a good one, and you can catch it on the replay. Like, subscribe, share. If you like my conversation, this is a middle perspective, so don't expect for me to be talking like a Democrat or Republican. And if you do, you're going to get your feelings hurt. And I ain't trying to do that, but this is real talk over here. All right, have a good one. Bye.